My wife and I moved to the Westchester area in 1998, along with a large family. We have 7 kids. And at the time, we had 6 children, and we purchased a farm. Now, it's important to point out that we had 0 farming experience between the 2 of us. And by creeping elegance, we began to understand just what a horrible mistake we had made. But through largely trial and error, we really began to have a lot of fun, and we got ourselves into hobbyist dairy farming. We planted an apple orchard, and then we got into chickens. So I built this fantastic chicken house, and it had a corrugated tin roof, and we went out and we purchased some chickens, and before long, we had chickens that were producing eggs, and they're just fantastic. So we were really enjoying the eggs, and somewhere along that time frame, one of our kids has just gone into 1st grade, and in the 1st grade class, they were doing that springtime experiment that 1st graders do of incubating hen eggs. So they would come in and they would turn it, that quarter turn every day. And as this went on, somewhere along the way, word had gotten out in the school that we had a farm and hens. So they approached us and said, once these eggs are hatched, would you be willing to adopt them and take them on? And so as a result, I promised the 1st grade class that we would do that we would open up our home to these 2 little chicks that were coming along. And then they hatched, and they were cute, really adorable little chickens. And they came and they got integrated in with all the rest of the hens in our house. And as time went on, then something unfortunate started to happen. And that was that the hens that were supposed to add to our egg production turned out to be roosters. And you know, as part of our ignorance around farming, you hear a lot about cockfights or roosters, and it turns out that they don't need to be trained to do that. It just comes, it comes really naturally to them. And so 2 things immediately have gone very wrong. One, I've got an organized street fight on my hands in the hen house just about every day. And then secondly, you know, we're now into having to try to figure out which of the eggs that we've produced are potentially fertilized. Not a good look. So I began an intense and aggravating search to try to figure out some way to humanely dispose of these 2 roosters. And step 1 was, by virtue of 4-H and some other things that we'd gotten involved with, we got to become really friendly with a lot of the farmers in the Westchester area. So I began to call around to our farming friends and asking them if there were any of them that would like to take on a rooster, and they all turned me down flat immediately. And so having failed at the effort to pawn these 2 roosters off on our farming friends, I then had this other brilliant idea. And that was, well, who else would be interested in a chicken? Why, a butcher, of course. So I began making phone calls to some of the butchers in the Kennett Square and in the Westchester area. And every single one of the phone calls kind of went along the same lines. The first question was, are you serious? You know, is this a prank call? The second was, what century do you think we're living in? And then they would say, you know, sorry, Amish boy, but you know, we're in the 21st century now, and we stopped doing that shit about 1950. So discouraged and thwarted once again, I became more and more innovative in my panic to figure out how to dispense with these 2 guys. And then it occurred to me that the East Goshen, for those of you that have ever gone to the East Goshen Fair, the 4-H segment, every year they've got all these animals there. So I thought, I'm going to drive over there and I'm going to sneak these 2 roosters into a cage, and I'm going to drive away and nobody's ever going to know the difference. So I go over there in the middle, late one night near the end of the fair, and I'm wandering around, and there's nothing but gerbils and hamsters and rabbits. So I think, oh, I can't get rid of the roosters. So I stick them in the box, back in my car. I'm driving home. I'm driving across the Brandywine Creek, thinking about throwing the whole box over into the river. And I still can't bring myself to do that. But I go back into the house, and I look online and say, what's the most humane way to just go ahead? I can't take it anymore. I'm going to kill these things. So what's the most humane way to kill a rooster? And to my surprise, it's not chopping their heads off. You grab them by the neck, and you give them a good spin, and they immediately go down, or so says Google. So it's important to give a quick weather update. The rain is pouring down, and it's hitting this corrugated tin roof. The lightning is flashing. I'm down there in my Ford F-150 pickup truck with the lights blaring into the hen house. And I'm going in there full of adrenaline and anger and a fair amount of fear. And the two roosters, they're the dumbest creatures in the world, but they realize that their hen house has just turned into the Bates Motel, and I'm Norman Bates. They somehow or other know. So I immediately start this track pursuit, chasing one of the roosters around. I grab him by the neck, and I do just as the internet suggests. I give him a good spin, and he immediately goes totally limp. And I thought, oh, that's great. And I threw him off in the corner. Now the second rooster is looking at me like, holy crap. And we have a long and rigorous chase around the hen house together. And just as I catch him, the first rooster springs back to life. His head's hanging off at an angle, and he's flapping around, and I'm completely traumatized at this point. So the second rooster I give a much more vigorous spin to, and his head comes off in my hands. And I'm completely freaked out at this point. And then I have to go back after the first rooster, and I get him and I make quick work of him. And I hiked up the hill, traumatized but feeling victorious, and promising myself I'm never going to make another commitment to first graders.